As the world moves closer to 2026, one question is quietly dominating intelligence briefings, economic forecasts, and military war rooms across Europe and Washington. Is Russia heading toward its most catastrophic year in decades? For the Kremlin, 2026 is not just another calendar year. It is shaping up to be a convergence point where military exhaustion, economic decay, political instability, and international isolation collide all at once. Behind the strongman rhetoric and carefully staged speeches, Russia is facing pressures it has not experienced since the final years of the Soviet Union. And unlike past crises, this time there may be no easy exit. Tonight, we break down why 2026 could become Russia's worst year ever, how this moment has been years in the making, and what it means for Ukraine, Europe, and the global balance of power. Part 1. A war that Russia cannot end. Russia entered the Ukraine war believing it would be over in weeks. That assumption has now collapsed entirely. By 2026, the war will have dragged on for years, consuming lives, money, equipment, and political credibility. Russia's military has suffered staggering losses, not just in manpower, but in experienced officers, pilots, engineers, and logistics specialists. Unlike World War II, where Russia could mobilize mass production and national unity, this war is different. It is being fought in the digital age, under constant satellite surveillance, with Western intelligence feeding Ukraine real-time battlefield data. Russia is not just fighting Ukraine, it is effectively fighting NATO's intelligence architecture, without NATO officially being on the battlefield. By 2026, Russia's army is expected to face severe shortages of trained soldiers, aging and poorly maintained equipment, a shrinking pool of reserve forces, morale collapse among long-serving units. The Kremlin can order mobilizations, but it cannot manufacture motivation. Part 2. Economic reality versus Kremlin fantasy. Official Russian statistics claim the economy is stable, but behind the numbers lies a very different story. Sanctions have reshaped Russia's economy into a survival mode system, focused on war production while civilian industries decay. By 2026, Russia will be facing long-term capital flight, reduced oil and gas revenue, aging infrastructure with no foreign investment, a shrinking middle class, inflation eroding real wages. Oil and gas exports, once Russia's economic backbone, are being sold at deep discounts to a shrinking pool of buyers. Europe, once Russia's biggest customer, has largely moved on. China and India buy Russian energy, but at prices dictated by them, not Moscow. This is not economic strength. This is economic dependency. And by 2026, Russia's budget will be under extreme strain, funding a massive war while trying to keep the population quiet with subsidies and state support. Part 3. Demographic collapse. Perhaps the most dangerous threat to Russia's future isn't sanctions or weapons, it's demographics. Russia's population is shrinking, its workforce is aging, and the war has accelerated this collapse. Hundreds of thousands of young men have been killed, injured, or fled the country. Many of those who left are educated, skilled, and unlikely to return. By 2026, Russia's labor shortages will worsen, pension systems will face growing pressure, regional economies will hollow out, rural depopulation will intensify. This isn't a short-term problem, it is a generational crisis. Wars can be rebuilt from, demographic collapse cannot. From the outside, Vladimir Putin appears firmly in control. Elections are held, speeches are broadcast, opposition voices are silenced. But political stability maintained by fear is fragile. By 2026, the Kremlin will be managing elite infighting behind closed doors, growing resentment among regional governors, military leadership frustration, security services competing for influence. The Wagner Rebellion in 2023 was not an anomaly, it was a warning. When armed groups can challenge the state, even briefly, it exposes cracks that cannot be unseen. And while Putin remains in power, succession anxiety is growing. Russia has built a system centered on one man, and systems like that do not age well. Part 5. International isolation is becoming permanent. Russia once positioned itself as a global power broker, able to talk to Washington, Beijing, Tehran, and Brussels. By 2026, that role is shrinking fast. Russia's diplomatic leverage is declining, its credibility is damaged, its treaties are viewed with skepticism. Even traditional partners are hedging their bets. China cooperates but does not trust. India trades but avoids alignment. Africa listens but demands payment. Russia is becoming less of a leader and more of a transactional state, forced to barter influence rather than command it. Isolation is no longer temporary, it is structural. Part 6. Ukraine's evolution and Russia's stagnation. While Russia struggles to adapt, Ukraine is transforming. With Western support, Ukraine is modernizing its military, integrating new technologies, and developing domestic defense industries. By 2026, Ukraine is expected to operate advanced air defense systems, deploy long-range precision strike capabilities, integrate NATO standard command structures, expand drone warfare dominance. Russia, meanwhile, relies increasingly on outdated tactics, mass mobilization, and improvisation. Wars are not won by numbers alone, they are won by adaptability, and Russia is falling behind. Part 7. Internal control is getting expensive. Maintaining internal stability is becoming increasingly costly for the Kremlin. Censorship requires enforcement, surveillance requires manpower, propaganda requires constant reinforcement. By 2026, the state will spend more on internal security than ever before. Protest suppression will become more frequent, regional unrest will rise quietly, public trust will continue to erode. The more pressure applied from above, the more tension builds below. History shows us this pattern clearly. David Muir. Part 8. The Myth of Endless War Sustainability. The Kremlin often frames the war as a long civilizational struggle, implying Russia can endure indefinitely. But endurance has limits. Wars drain economies, fracture societies, and exhaust institutions. By 2026, Russia will face war fatigue among civilians, lower enlistment enthusiasm, increased desertion risks, quiet resistance rather than open protest. Not collapse overnight, but erosion over time. Empires rarely fall suddenly, they weaken slowly. Part 9. What 2026 really represents. 2026 is not important because of the date. It matters because it represents the moment when all these pressures converge at once. Military exhaustion, economic stagnation, demographic decline, political fragility, international isolation. Each of these alone would be manageable. Together, they form a crisis Russia has not faced in modern history. Conclusion: a turning point, not an end. To be clear, Russia will not disappear in 2026, but it may emerge from that year fundamentally changed, weaker, poorer, more isolated, and less influential than at any point since the early 1990s. The decisions made in the next 2 years will define Russia's trajectory for decades. And for the world, understanding this moment is critical because history is not waiting. It is unfolding right now.